What are the main challenges that family businesses are experiencing in this modern VUCA economy? My name is Fernández, and I'm a director at Nileus Leadership. We focus on the growth and protecting the legacy of family businesses. And we use a proven leadership model since 1981. The first thing we do is creating the leaders that will help this company grow in the future. The second thing we do is we focus very thoroughly on protecting the family business legacy. We do that by developing succession planning, a succession planning strategy. In my experience, the main challenges that family businesses are experiencing today are first, protecting their legacy in a world that requires a lot of diversification and a lot of innovation. And the second main challenge is growing and creating the leaders that will allow the company to grow. Why is this so complicated? Well, family businesses have their own advantages and their own disadvantages. One of the disadvantages they have is the heavy political environment they suffer. A lot of family members want to control the company. So to do and protect that, we have to create effective leaders. Effective leaders will help the company perform at a higher level. It has been proven that effective leadership has a direct correlation with business performance, and ineffective leadership has a direct correlation with business inefficiency. What we will see is that we have to focus on creating effective leadership. Soft skills, such as creative behaviors, are the key to effective leadership. So we have to focus on positive leadership behaviors, such as inspiring leadership, selfless leaders, values-based leadership, creating powerful relations with the people in my team, systemic understanding, and avoid behaviors such as driven behaviors, such as egotistical behaviors, such as ambition and personal ambition, such as being conservative or pleasing, such as being critical or distant. And we do that by developing the people in your company. This can be done, and it is developing the art behind leaders. So this is the first point we were talking about, creating the leaders that will help your company grow in the future. The second point we said was protecting the legacy of a company. A family business has a legacy that has been created throughout the years. And it's not only benefiting the stakeholders, it's benefiting the people in the family. So protecting that legacy is important. And this means there's a set of values, there's a set of ways in which we operate that are distinct to other companies. Now, as we said before, family businesses have very heavy political influences, such as family members wanting their sons to be leading the company or certain members to be driving the company future. This will hinder performance if we don't have the effective and the right leaders in position, as we said before. So creating a succession plan and creating a plan for the future will allow us to understand what do we value in the leaders of tomorrow. No leaders, no future leaders, no future company. So we have to invest in those leaders, in those potentials, and develop them into being the leaders of the company. Not just choosing people because they are part of the family, but choosing the right people in the family or even outside that can drive this company. Now, when we hire people outside, we have another challenge. Those people don't have the values, don't have the vision, don't have the DNA of the company. So what we have to be able to do is define clearly what is our vision and what are our values, so I can decide who are the right people to drive this company into the future. To do so, we need a plan, and we recommend external consultants to have an external view and not be contaminated by the pressure inside the company. In the next 5 minutes, I'm going to explain you what are the main opportunities that family businesses have in today's market. I worked in Dubai between 2000 and 2015. And what I loved about Dubai is a family-led country. Why was this so important for Dubai? They had a vision 2030 in the year 2000. What did that mean? That people knew that there was a plan that was going to continue on the long term. That is the advantage of a family business. You have a long-term vision and you're not hindered by quarterly and yearly results. You can follow a strategy. You can design and look into the future and create a path and follow that path that will make investments today to grow in the future. So I think that's one of the key advantages of a family business, a capacity of creating a long-term vision and looking into the future and not being limited by fast-paced results that will give you short-term benefits, but not long-term benefits. Yeah, so that's one of the key advantages. The other advantage is legacy and the past, the knowledge from the past and the years of experience and doing business in different areas. That legacy, that wisdom that's acquired throughout the years. Family businesses, like any other business, have to diversify and find new opportunities to stay alive in a growing and evolving VUCA market. For example, today we see that Trump is the great news that's creating a lot of challenges in the world. A year ago, it was artificial intelligence. 2 years ago, it was the metaverse. And before that, it was the pandemic. Yeah. So there's a whole of challenges that are happening in the world, and companies have to be agile and diversified. Now, family businesses have, as we said, the advantage of the legacy, but it also can hinder the capacity to move. So what we believe is that a family business has to create a creative tension between the past, between our experience, and between innovation and diversification. So we have to be very aware of what is needed from us. At the same time, we have to be very clear of who we are and what are our values, what is our vision, why we were created, and not lose our identity. We live in a values-based society. People give more and more importance to the values of organizations and to be able to be aligned with them. So we have to honor those values at the same time as seeing the opportunities in the market. Understand what is our experience, what is a unique value proposition and a unique offer to our clients, and see how we can offer and how can I adapt to the opportunities in the market. That creative tension, being in the middle of that creative tension between tradition and innovation, is going to be a key for the growth of a family business. So we have a proven leadership method since 1981, and experience since 1981. We combine military NATO leadership model, we combine Fortune 500 experiences, we combine startup experiences, we combine our experience in human resources to help and grow family businesses. So in our experience, there's 4 key elements to make a family business grow and be successful. The first one is create the leaders of tomorrow. Invest in powerful leaders that will drive your company into the future. Select them, nurse them, choose them, and grow them into your leaders of tomorrow. Also understand if you have those leaders or you have to look for them outside. And if you look for them outside, they have to be aligned with who you are, with your vision and your values, or train them into that way, that DNA of your company. The second point is creating a successful succession plan. What does that mean? Planning to the future. Where are we? Where do we go? Who are the people that can drive us into the future? Generation transitions are one of the most complicated elements for the success of a family business. Creating a plan that will help you move into the future. Find those people that will move into the future is the second most important element. The third point is developing a clear vision and being clear of where we're going. Leaders usually know what their vision is. Founders of the company usually know why they created the company. Now, the transition into the second generation, expressing it into the second generation, and expressing it into the whole company is usually very complicated. Some companies have a clear vision and some clear values. They put them on the wall and everybody likes them. Now, if those values and that vision is not authentic, people will smell it. Why? Because people align to the visions and the values of a company. If they are not authentic, people will smell they're not authentic. The second point is being able to explain it clearly. They have to be able to explain those values in a clear manner to the rest of the company. And this is the main problem we see in most companies. The leadership have a clear idea of where they want to go, but they're not capable of explaining it down. So there's a distortion between the leadership and the actionship, the strategic part of the company that sets a direction, and the actionship of the company are the people that implement that direction. Now, if there's not a clear explanation or clear understanding from the bottom of why are we doing what we're doing and why we have these values, we have a huge problem. For that, we suggest creating behaviors that will translate those values into actionable behaviors, into actionable ways of being and doing inside the company. And the fourth point is balancing, as we said before, that creative tension between innovation and tradition, being in the middle of innovation and tradition. I won't be as innovative as a startup. I can't be as agile and I can't move as fast because I risk my legacy. I risk who we are. At the same time, I can't be stuck in the past and doing things as we've always done them. As Richard Branson says, one of the biggest problems of a company is saying, we do this because we've always done it this way. So we have to be able to move in that transition. And in human development and business development, those creative tensions are what define who we are and make the difference of who we are in the market and make us grow successfully. So as I said, 4 key points. First of all is create the leaders of tomorrow. Second point, create a succession plan to protect your legacy. Third point, use your vision, use your values, use your vision, your uniqueness to grow and convert that into behaviors. And fourth point, use that creative tension between diversification and innovation. What we do when we land in a company is understand where they are. We first do a diagnosis. Okay, what are we experiencing as a company? And what are the possible pain points? Usually it's a misalignment, certain behaviors that are creating tension, but there's usually something that is failing before that. So what we do first is diagnose what is happening. And in that diagnostic, we see, is there a clear vision? Are there clear values in the company? Is there a clear purpose? So if they do have them, great, we've got something to work on. Now, the second point is understanding, is that vision, are those values and that purpose authentic? So as the company acting aligned to those parameters that they have defined, it's usually not happening. Usually companies are not authentic to those frameworks that are created. This might be because it haven't been explained properly. They might be because they haven't been transmitted properly, or they might be just because those values are not being honored. So that's the second point. We analyze what is happening. What are those three, or the three of them are happening? And we work on creating a clear explanation of that vision, those values, and that purpose, explaining it properly, then being authentic to it. And this is a top-down and bottom-up experience. And that's the way we usually work. We work on the leaders transmitting it downwards, and then the team requiring it upwards. How do we do that? We train the whole company in those vision, values, and purpose. Now, they are difficult to understand. And what we do, and the second step we do, is once they are clear, once it's authentic, and once we can work with those, we create the behaviors. What are behaviors? Behaviors means translating vision, values into actionable experiences and ways of doing and being inside this company. For example, if we have a vision or a value that is people first, we have to define how do we behave when we make people first. Does people first mean we don't fire anyone? Does people first mean we invest in our people and we make them grow? What does people first mean? Once we have those behaviors, what we can start doing is training the whole company in those behaviors. So we do leadership development in the whole company. So the whole company is speaking one unique language. We know what we mean with people first. We know what we mean with any kind of values we are experiencing and what are those behaviors. We train everybody to grow as leaders and to require those behaviors from their leadership. And we have a very clear example of a company we work with. It's a multinational company, and they had businesses all over the world. So there was a problem of adapting that vision and that direction of the company to different cultures and different ways of being and different climates around the world. So what we did was working with the management to define clearly and align on those values. They hadn't designed and aligned those values. They had them in them, but they hadn't manifested them. So we started working on defining and clarifying those values. Then we converted those values into the behaviors that we expected our people to have. And then we trained the whole company on those behaviors. And this meant going all over the world, training people in the country to understand and behave through experiential learning, through challenges we would give them that would reflect those unwanted behaviors, so they could be conscious of those unwanted behaviors, and then we could train them on the expected behaviors. This meant that a person working on one area of the world could be speaking the same language of another person speaking in another part of the world, and they knew what they meant when they used the words. The words had the same meaning. So that was super important. And a big thing we did was training the whole company in this way of behaving. And then we trained the company to train the newcomers. So we didn't have to go all the time. We trained the company to train the newcomers. So that culture, that unified way of talking, was understood by everyone. And this is why culture is so important. That's why creating a company culture is essential, because it's getting all those behaviors together to defining who we are, how we act, and the ways of doing. And so that everybody can understand wherever they are, how we operate with each other. Well, you'll have to talk to them to understand if they're happy or not. What we can say is they have a higher level of effective leadership. What we see is there's less misalignment between the leadership and the actionship. The company's working more cohesively, the company's having better financial results, and the interaction between different cultures and people in different countries is working in a much better manner. We even having people trained in one of the countries come to another country to train people and share their experience in growing the business. Nileus Leadership has a very diverse director base. So there's 4 of us, and the 4 of us are absolutely different. And that's why diversity is so important. Diversity is important so we have different perspectives in which to understand a specific problem. As Einstein said, trying to solve a problem from the same perspective it was created in is the definition of madness. Yeah. So that's why it's important to have a diverse team. So on the one hand, we have Richard Watts. He has brought his experience in the Royal Marines since 1981. And what that brings us is a model based on the leadership direction of NATO and the Royal Marines. Why is having someone from the Royal Marines so important? Well, most leadership that you have heard of comes from the military. Why? Because military depend on successful leadership to survive. A business will reduce its performance. In the army, it will die if you don't have effective leadership. So we have a very important learning from Richard. Richard has been working in the military for a long time, but he's been, for the last 20 years, he's been working with private companies. Yeah, so he's mixing his knowledge from the military and his knowledge in business. So he brings that combination. On the other hand, we have Paolo. Paolo Rovelli is Italian. So Richard is English. Paolo is Italian, living in Spain. So he has a multicultural approach. He has experience in Fortune 500 companies. What does that mean? He knows corporates from inside. Corporates, for me, are the most sophisticated systems that we have today. We have thousands of people working in very complex environments. And complexity is one of the things that grows with this VUCA world. So he understands how corporate complicated system works. He also has experience as a consultant. He's been consulting businesses with one of the big 4 companies. And that brings a lot of a diverse knowledge of another system. I, on my case, have a diverse experience. I've worked in corporates too, but I flourished in the startup world. And why is startup so interesting? Because we move at a very fast pace, and we have to create a scalable and repeatable business model. But we work with a limited amount of money, limited amount of time to create success. Also, one of the things that happens in startups is that leaders start with no leadership knowledge or capability, and leaders have to grow into effective leaders. And that growth, once we go over 50 to 100 people, is one of the most critical points for the success of a startup. So we see in startups who understand the importance of developing this leadership, of creating successful plans, of validating hypotheses, of moving in a fast-paced environment, and asking and getting investment. The fourth person in our team is Jenny Watts. Yeah, Jenny comes from human resources, and she brings us a whole lot of knowledge on the processes, on the systems, and how human resources work, how they invest in the developing, and what are the challenges in developing the workforce of a company. How do we create the system that will be prolonged into the future? And this is one of the most important parts for family businesses. Yeah, how do we create those learning cycles and that knowledge and that training that will move us into the future? So as I said before, we have a very diverse team of 4 different persons. One person coming from military and business, another person coming from Fortune 500, another person coming from startups and growing businesses, and another person that understands human resources from inside. In the next 5 minutes, I'm going to explain how to create a successful succession plan for your family business. So the first thing of creating a plan is planning. Yeah. So to do so, it's very important to define what is it that we want. Who do we want to lead our company in the future? And develop a strategy to identify those high potentials that align with what we want and grow them, invest in them, invest in their leadership capabilities. Management is a science. You can go to university and study management. Leadership is an art. Your role is to develop the artist of the future. Leadership is an expression of who we are. Not everybody leads in the same way. We can't expect this next generation of leaders to be exactly the same as the previous generation of leaders. Their context is different. The context in which they're going to be working is different. We have to let them grow, empower them to grow and be who they are. So that's the first step. Create a plan that sets a clear direction of who we want, and then grow those people into being their expression of leadership, aligned with our DNA, our family business DNA. The second point is developing the teams inside the organization. So we have to create effective teams that interact properly and have the right systems of interacting properly between them. We have to invest in these teams and create systems that grow into the future. The third thing we have to do is leadership development. So we've already spoken about those leaders, and we have to invest in them. Well, how can we do that? We can create inside the company leadership development plans that nurture those people into the future. We also might have to look into who are external leaders that can drive us into the future. If we don't have those leaders inside, we have to identify what is needed. What kind of positions are not fulfilled or can we not fulfill? Very important also to protect our company from politics. Politics are one of the main hindrances of family businesses. They hinder the growth of a family business. Why? Because we get the wrong people in the wrong places. You don't have the right leaders in the right places, you won't have a future. Finally, we have to create a transparent and structured succession plan. We have to plan this process into the future, aligning with the family interests. So we have to be able to create this plan that ponderates on one side the process and on the other side the interests of the family, aligning the interests of the family with the interests of the business. My name is Alexis Fernández. I'm a director at Nileus Leadership. We protect your legacy, your family business legacy, and allow you to grow effectively using our proven leadership model and our experience since 1981.